Okay, so today this is Appleton Village School, and we are interviewing Richard Meservey. It is April 25th, 2005, and here we go. We have a couple questions. My first question would be, when you were around our age, what was a typical day like for you? A typical day.
What was a school day like for you when you were in 7th grade?
Well, it was just a lot different than it is now. When I was going to the other school, which is the town's building now, and of course it was high school and lower grades both in the same building. But it was very nice because we knew if you've been there one day, you've been them all. And we had the teacher, there was one teacher for the grades, and nice lady. I don't think she's still living. But thing of it is, we walked. My sister and I walked together, and it was 3 miles from North Appleton, and we walked home, whether it was snow on the ground or whatever it was. But we were calm until the day, 8th day, and we had our own, whatever the teacher had written, we had that when that particular part was done. And it was a good school. We went out early, played baseball in the mud. I'll leave that out.
Where did you live?
Well,
Yes.
right now, we're living just the top of the hill. You know, the boys, the gal, there's 2 of them that have come here that I know of.
Erica
Johnson.
We're right next
Johnson.
door to Erica and Carlos Johnson. And
We bought the one that was the big trees, which we planted them, and my son jumped over them. But we were in Massachusetts at the time, and
excuse me, they want to know where you lived, and you were right
I'm gonna
across
tell
the
them.
street. Okay.
so we saw that place where we were going to buy was for sale, and we were in Massachusetts. So I called the guy. He says, "Come down, we'll look it over." And I'll tell you, we did purchase it, but I grew up and was born right across the road from where it was and where it is. And what do you got? I don't know, it would be too nosy.
Could you describe your family for us?
Pardon?
Your family.
Describe your family.
Yes, there were 6 girls and 5 boys in my home. And but my father was a farmer, and we all pitched in when there's something to do, whatever your age was. And now I'm the only boy left, and my sister, who walked to school with me, Elizabeth, she's the only girl left. She's in Belfast, a rest place, you might call it. And we've been up there a few times to see her. My father was gone. He lived to be 93, and my mother died before that. And a wonderful family. And what did I work with? Oxen. We had oxen all the while I was growing up, and I didn't mind them. because they didn't care what they did. And they didn't mind the snow, the depth of snow.
Did you ever consider the military when you were our age?
Would you say that again, please? I don't hear as good as I used to.
Did you ever consider the military when you were our age? Did you ever think about it?
And I was what?
Did you ever think of being in the military when you were in 7th grade?
No, I didn't.
Didn't.
In fact, I was working in Camden, and I was working at the time in Camden when we were building some of these good, strong ships, fighting ships they were. And then when they moved me over to the town, and because the part once the ships were ready to completed, and over at that building there was pens, probably they weren't this big each one, but all through that building, and I tended on the gunnery officer had his own pen. The engineering officer, he had his own pen. The main officers weren't there then. But it was big enough so they could order spare parts. That's what they did. And I worked with him there, and it had to be what they desired had to be there. Eventually they would, anyway. But I did work at the from probably 2 or 3. I was there, and.
What plans did you have for your life up until the time you enlisted or got drafted?
You didn't hear that, I don't.
Before you were enlisted or drafted, what plans did you have for your life?
It wasn't that, really.
Did you have any?
I worked in that yard.
Yeah, all right. What she wanted to know, dear, is what plans did you have when you were like young? Did you have any goal for your life? Did you think of going into the military, or did you have some goal?
No.
Okay. How old were you when you joined into the military?
When I joined, well, I was out of high school age. I graduated in high school in 1935, and it was just the next year. The activity was moved into more of a grade that you could, if you wanted something like that, you'd have to wait. But I preferred working on the ship that I was assigned to. We built ships at the Hull.
Liberty ships?
Hmm?
You were on Liberty ship. You're the ones you
Yeah,
built.
Liberty ships wasn't it? Yeah,
ATRs.
yeah.
But they want to know how old you were when you entered the Merchant Marine. You were what, 28 or 30?
Oh no, I wasn't that old.
You weren't there.
No, no.
Was it 22, 23? You can't remember, and I'm not sure.
That's okay. How did your parents feel when you enlisted?
Pardon?
How did your parents feel enlistment?
I guess I don't think there was any consideration really, because I lived in Camden 18 years, and I worked in Camden. I don't want to be, too nosy, but the place I worked over on a band Main Street, and that they also we built several of them.
If you don't answer, just answer their questions, dear, they won't have time enough. So just move along, okay?
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
What memories do you have of returning home after the war ended? What was it like?
Well, it was nice to turn. Every time I don't think I ever sailed one ship and then get on another one right away. Somewhere I got here the names of them. Anyway.
They're right
But-
on there, dear, but he was in the merchant marine and he'd
That's
gone for one trip
Yeah,
across. He
we
did
were
10 trips
merchant
across.
seamen.
They're right there, dear.
May we see some of them?
Pardon?
May we see some of them?
Pictures?
Yeah.
That's when he was in service, yes.
That's me.
Park it right around there. maybe.
Yeah, I will do. And I
We'll
would
leave
like.
Here, Alex.
We'll get some of those pictures.
Yeah, I'll see it.
And he wrote that column about being in Gdynia, Poland
And then pull it up a little bit.
during the war.
Yeah, that.
One more. Keep going, going. There.
If you want it out of the plastic, it doesn't have to be in there.
We're all
Oh,
set.
it's okay.
We're just trying to get a couple pictures in. Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Lucy, how did you get adjusted to civilian life again when you came back?
How did you get adjusted to life after you came back from the war?
It's just out the window.
Was it
Yeah.
very different?
Huh?
Was it different?
Not really.
Not really.
No.
Um,
They knew where I was, where I was going. And in fact, they knew where I was going just as much as the man who commanded that ship knew where I was going.
how did it feel to be back home?
It's always nice to be back home because that's the kind of home I lived in.
Did you start a family when you came back from the war, or did you
Did I have one?
start a family after you returned home?
Did you start a family? No, we already had one.
You did.
First time? No. Here's my family.
I'm the second wife.
She spent 20 years around this right here.
How did your time in the service affect the rest of your life?
Even the fact that I had I think it was 5 different ships that I was on. In fact, I was on an oil tanker. Went to
Right there.
yeah.
1944, he was on the Christie Payne.
Mm-hmm.
Just read those right off. And on 1944, he was also Edmund Mallet, and he went to Le Havre, France. And in 1945, he was on the George Popham, a Liberty ship, and it went to Antwerp, Belgium. And in 46, he was on the Jonathan Worth, and he went to Le Havre and London, and then he was on the Benjamin Schlesinger, and he went to Poland.
Did you stay in contact with anyone you met during your time serving?
During that time, you mean?
Did you meet any, after the war, did you stay in contact with anybody you met?
Well, only like they came here last. They came here last year. New Preps was here too, and every year, and we could express our views. I liked what I was doing on the ship, but the oil tanker was going to Texas, and then it loaded up and emptied it off in Massachusetts or New York, And then we turned around, went to South America, loaded again. That's when I was part of the crew. But no, nothing to fear. I just had some good cooks, and they wanted me to give them a hand, but I didn't do that. I just, anyway. So everything, you know, I liked being out there. Even though I didn't know where we were going. But once we'd been in France, it was a strange situation there, because it wasn't long before that we had taken over France, and we had the best of Germany. They had to sort of work back in their own country. But what I was going to say about France, there was no dock. You could go there with a ship loaded, but there was no dock. And what they had was these machines, I'll call them machine, that they drove out to the ship itself, and they loaded it up and went back to land, and away. They drove away. They had both. They had wheels and they had motors, and so that was necessary, and that took care of that.
I have one more question. I want to ask you, what is your definition of freedom?
Freedom?
Yes.
Driving oxen.
Okay, well, thank you for coming here today.
Okay, today we're April 25th. We're interviewing Richard Meservey at Appleton Village School for the service of World War II. There.
Okay, the first question is, what war were you involved in?
What work were you involved in
You mean
before
when
the service?
Or what war were you involved in?
Oh,
World War
what
II?
war? I mean, World War II.
World War II? I'm in the.
Did you enlist or were you drafted?
I chose.
Enlisted.
In fact, I went to Bangor, no, Portland, and I went to the shop where there was Navy boys, and they said, if you want to get on a ship, go up to the street. I went in, and strange it may seem, the guy that was there and put me on an oil tanker, and I knew him. He was from
His name was Thomas.
Huh?
He was his mother's cousin.
yeah.
And it turned out to be a relative.
I didn't expect I would see him again, but I did.
Dennis Thomas.
So he wrote on some of my times.
How old were you when you enlisted?
When I was stage.
How old were you
It's
when you went in?
a good question.
Probably 24 or 5. Were you 24? Younger than that? 22?
I can't argue that point.
Well, all right. His first ship was 1944, and so in 1944, how old were you? You're 9. You were. That's easy.
Well, I graduated in 1945.
1935. You graduated in 1935. All right. You.
Yeah.
Okay.
Mhm.
So in
So it was next year.
1944, you were 20. What's my math? Okay, you were born in 1916. In 1944, how old were you in 1944?
Younger than I am now.
A little. 28. 28. You were 28.
Yeah.
Yes.
just like you, or something.
Yes. No. 28. We'll say 28. That's close enough.
What branch of the military were you in?
Merchant Marine. What branch for the military? Merchant Marine. Coast Guard. That's under the Coast Guard. Merchant Marine.
Yes, it was. But in my early work, I was on deck. And then I went down below where the power was.
Engine.
And I stayed at that the rest of my doing. Because when I was on deck, and they probably kept me on deck because there was several guns on board every ship. Just they were all built alike. They built 2,700 of those
Liberty ships.
Liberty ships, and I was allowed or directed to. You took about that size with shells.
Load the shells.
Loaded, and one of the Navy guys handled it, but I was supposed to, one that was empty, have another one and stuff it on there. But I don't think we ever shot anybody.
Okay, next question.
What was your position? What was your position?
On board ship, what did you do?
Well, I could say ammunition loader, because that's what.
You did a number of things. You waited on tables in the beginning in the officers' mess.
And we had about
down in the
40
engine room.
young people.
Ended up in the engine room doing
Yeah,
the
yes, I
boilers.
did.
Yeah. Yeah.
But I mean, they controlled the ship. With those or wherever they were, it was a position that someone had to be, and there's a lot of guys that was in there that didn't do that much really.
Where did you serve? Where did you serve?
Well,
Yes.
I served. I sailed on a after down
No,
Texas.
you went to Le Havre. He went to
and
Texas
went down to Texas and loaded with oil.
and Venezuela.
And came back to New York. And then once we got that unloaded, we went to
Venezuela,
Venezuela
South America.
and loaded again. And then I went on Liberty ships the rest of my time.
So went to Le Havre, France, and he went to Copenhagen, Denmark, and he went to. They're all on that list that they did on the other sheet. Belgium, Copenhagen, France, England.
England.
Yeah, he went to England
Mhm.
and Poland. Get in
I
your-
was in France twice.
He went across the Atlantic 10 times, and only once got blown off course and ended up in the Azores because of a bad storm in the North Sea. But he loved it because they could eat fresh grapefruit, and it was delicious. I said, you don't
Actually.
appreciate grapefruit until you can just pick them off the tree.
What's the place close to France? I mean, close to England.
Scotland?
Huh?
You lost me. Scotland? You didn't go to
No,
Scotland?
never get
Belgium.
No, it was right along beside France. Not France, but England. We were in the,
Wales?
we were up in there one
Wales?
time.
Wales. Wales?
That's good enough.
Good enough. Next question.
How long did you serve?
44 through 46.
Not a long time,
44, 45,
because I didn't
46,
get onto a
well,
ship
it's
till
over.
part of early in 34.
44. 3 years. 44, 45, and 46, right?
Mm-hmm. We were in Belgium when the war in Europe ended. Germany gave up at that time. We went in there loaded with ammunition and whatever else. And some of them said, well, we'll sail across the sea and go into the Japanese were still fighting us.
Pacific.
But then they changed their mind. We took it back, New York, and unloaded it. Still there for a now. I said that.
This is our last question. How did you feel when you first found out that you needed to go into the service?
He actually enlisted, so he chose to go in.
Well, it's when I was stopping at Camden's.
Shipbuilding.
Yeah, they were bringing in spare parts and put them in cages, you might say. But and I said, I'd like to be in the Navy, and there was Navy guys there. He said, "Oh, don't be foolish." So I
They
didn't.
talked him out of the Navy, and so he went into the Merchant Marine.
But I wanted to.
And I'm
I wanted to get on the ship. That's when I went to Portland, and that's where the guy. I don't know if he knew me or not, but I knew him. Well, I guess he knew me because he picked me out of the ship. That's what I got on.
Janice Thomas, his name was.
We need to stop this session.